Welcome to Philly Coco Presents Side Project Spotlight, episode 76. This is a developer's journey into making cool stuff. I'm Kotaro.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Aaron.
And we are Philly Coco, a Philadelphia-based Coco Heads community focused on Apple development that primarily, but not exclusively, means iOS, Mac, tvOS, watchOS, and visionOS development. Philly Coco's true desire is to take you higher on your own developer journey. Ooh, all right. Nice. Didn't need AI to get through that one.
No,
we should try. We should try it just to see, like, train it on my voice and see how well it does, and see if it like fools anybody. If we get any feedback around that.
You know, I've been thinking about doing that for a while. Like, do a podcast that I just type in. Like, you can. There's various tools for this, and then I could just type up my script and just have my virtual voice read it. I've seen some videos on YouTube people have done that with, and
yeah, there's probably not enough of me to make a virtual voice.
Yeah, you keep. Yeah, we gotta like talk about LLMs at a more scientific level, and then maybe that'll get more sample size for you. But I guess we just have to accept that there will never be a virtual Aaron anytime soon, or there will not be a virtual Aaron anytime soon.
Well, you know, you can just I think you can just, some of these products just work with you reading like a script or something to them, then they can clone it, so it doesn't need to be hours and hours and hours necessarily. But it is pretty cool. It's scary that you can even do that.
Is that feature? I vaguely remember that was a feature that you could do, and this was much more of an accessibility thing. For like, if you were slowly losing your voice, or you were, you could have it. You could pre-train the iPhone to on your voice.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's a thing. I don't know if that was a feature that, you know, it was kind of like shoveled into the accessibility section, so it wasn't like a feature. But it was. I don't know if that was in 17, like a later version of 17, or if they moved that into iOS 18. If that's, because I don't hear about it much anymore.
It's new. It does exist.
Yeah,
I haven't tried it though.
No, but I should try it just to see.
Yeah,
which I don't know how.
Well,
I wouldn't know how to feel about it.
I don't know. Every year, I seem to lose my voice in the summer. So I should just do this in advance so I can continue the podcast. just type in my answers and have the voice clone.
Oh, geez. Yeah, that would be pretty funny. Although you would just be hearing typing in the background, and then a long reply. You're gonna have to do a lot of editing if that's the case.
I know. So like, what are we talking about today anyway?
Well, just curious. More of a follow up of the iPhone 16. One thing. Are any of you getting it, or either the Pro or the Pro Max, or whatever? You're not, I think, right? And I think neither of you are, right?
Yeah, I haven't ordered one.
I still haven't ordered one. I need to go to the store to see if physically, I handling it is enough. Like, I have to look at some of the really in-depth camera reviews, but from what I have seen, it is an improvement from my 14 Pro Max. In the camera department, and I like the idea of the button and stuff, but it's kind of a product where right now, without all the Apple Intelligence stuff being rolled out, it's just an incremental improvement from what I have now, and I'm not sure it's worth $1,600 or $1,000+, whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, what's kind of funny is like I checked it out fairly recently at the store, and I was like, and I was kind of surprised because normally I'm you know, I have a 12 mini right now, and I'm like, oh, I don't want anything this huge, right? And then I like handled the Max for a little bit, and I was like, this is nice. this is nice. Yeah. I don't know what ergonomics magic they're working on here, but this feel like I guess I'm used to like a traditional, quote unquote, traditional iPhone now, since my work gives me like an iPhone 15. But so I'm used to the ergonomics of that. But I'm also, so when I was handling that one, it's like, okay, it feels relatively normal and straightforward. And then when I was handling the Max, it's like, oh, okay, like the screen, the bezels, even the feel of it felt interesting. I don't know how that's going to feel in my pants because, it's like a huge thing and I don't wear baggy pants. So.
I'm going to have to clip that. I'm going to have to clip that.
Did that come off weird?
No, not at all.
That was great. But no, I know what you mean. I remember warning you about the Max phones where if you don't have big enough pockets in your pants, it's actually a logistical problem to carry those things.
Right, because it's not like it's the only thing you're carrying in that. Like normally, I think because I don't wear a case. I don't have a case. I've never had a case. So like this version, I probably would also try not to have one, but it's like, I usually don't like to put anything else in the pocket, the same pocket as my app. So I keep my keys because obviously there's potential for it to scratch my screen. So I keep my keys and my AirPod case in the other pocket, and then I just keep my phone in one pocket. So usually it's fine, in terms of like protection and that kind of stuff.
Usually,
or like in terms of like
making made for
stuff.
Max pants.
I mean, you just get a cargo shorts and you're good, or cargo pants.
Make sure it fits.
Or nowadays they have like these really mini, like small size mini slings, or what do you do? Not hoisters. No, yeah, like sling bags, but like they're like miniature size.
Yeah,
where you can put your wallet.
I don't. Maybe mine's not that small, but I have a sling bag. I often will carry around, and it does have like a little slot that's kind of soft. You can put phone in.
Yeah. I used to have a really nice Gap one. That was actually like my favorite one. But the problem with sling bags, at least big ones, is like if you carry too much stuff, it's like it does some weird things to your back over time. It's just like not. I think the distribution of weight is not even, so you start feeling like shoulder issues and like more so than you might normally with a book bag. So that's one of the things where I stopped using it for a while. So I don't know. These are all iPhone specific modern iPhone problems. So not something I'm going to worry too much about.
Yeah.
But getting a Max, is that what it's?
Okay. So I don't know if I'm getting the Max. As I said, I'm tempted.
I think it would depend. It would depend on how you feel with the way the camera control button works. That I did notice in some of the reviews and some of the conversations was like, I think it feels targeted to prosumers and professional like iPhone professional content creator types.
Yeah. If you're using this device as a content creation tool, using it for like video and B-roll, so you can do 120. You can do like slow motion. You can do all kinds of cool stuff with it, but you need to have a lot of storage. But the one of the issues I have is it's like a version 1 product of things like the camera button.
Yeah,
is it going to be adjusted next time? And is there going to be a redesign for the next version? I mean, of course, this is the problem you always have. The next version of something is always theoretically better. But you shouldn't make buying decisions based on that way. I try not to buy things unless it's a significant, like it's valuable enough for me to be worth the money. And I don't know, maybe I might change my mind once there's more Apple Intelligence stuff, because I don't have a phone capable of that at all. But if I had like a 15, I would probably not upgrade. But with a 14, I feel like it's borderline. With a 14 Pro Max, I feel like it's borderline. And if you had older than a 14, I think it's kind of a no-brainer, because that's like 3 years or more between devices. A big upgrade. I would love to see how fast the processor is. I don't know what's installed on the phones on the Apple Store, but one of the things I notice is some performance issues with Lightroom on my 14 Pro Max with certain features. I don't know if there's any way for me to test that in the Apple Store, but that is that would almost make it worth it for me.
They do stock the iPhones and on the show floor with, like, usually if it's a Pro, if it's a MacBook Pro or something like that, they usually put Pro apps on there. So like Final Cut.
They never Xcode though.
Never Xcode. Well, so it's tough because like it's like a niche group that would actually care about that, right?
Yeah. So the reason I care is because I'll go in the Apple Store and I want to look at like the studio display and something, and I want to see what code looks like, because I'm not used to seeing a display that high res. And so I would like to see what Xcode looks like on this, but I can't. So the next best thing is I go to developer documentation and look at the code snippets. So I guess right now we're all, well, you I think are going to buy one, Kotaro. It seems like a no-brainer to get one.
For sure.
And
yeah, no-brainer.
For me, I guess it might depend on how on like checking out your phone maybe.
I think
you know.
I think it would also depend on the carrier deal, whether
you do a carrier deal. I just buy it from
Apple. I haven't yet. I don't do it now, partially because I'm out of. But originally, I had done I've done all like the varieties, so like the upgrade version, then just like an installment, and then like with Apple Card. But I don't know
the upgrade. The annual upgrade thing. I'm thinking about going back on that again, but I didn't like the way that the loan was handled. Like I didn't like the payment website for it, but that one's actually nice. If you just want a phone every year, if you don't care about keeping the old devices, and you're willing to just keep paying forever and just lease your phone. It's like, I mean, because otherwise, the only difference is like I'm paying for last phone is I bought it and then I waited 2 years to buy a new phone, so I got like 1 year.
I think you also get like a low rent version of Apple Care along with that.
Is it low rent?
It's like
I know
it's
you
like
can get the full Apple Care.
I don't know what it was, but like if you do the upgrade plan, you Apple Care, like the lower end version of it, you get for free, or it comes along with that deal.
I think I paid for the higher end. I mean, I always get the Apple Care with theft and loss, even though I don't leave my house anymore. So, but that's not true. But
I mean, I feel like I should, but I really don't like.
It's probably not worth it.
Yeah.
Any Apple Care? You just no Apple Care?
No, none.
It's probably not worth it. I mean, for most of the time. So I have never had to use it on my phone, so maybe it's not worth it. But my current Apple Care, I got a little message. The iOS now gives you a little message that says your Apple Care is about to expire. If you want to go month to month, it gives you a little warning in settings.
Oh,
so
right.
I have that timeline to decide whether to upgrade my phone or get new Apple Care.
All right, how much is that month to month thing, guys? I got the same notification.
I'm not sure off the top of my head, but it's probably like under $20 a month, depending on which one you're getting.
Oh, only $20.
I think it's under that.
Might as well just risk it all.
I'm using my phone as my camera right now, so you can see my face. So I can't check it, but it's whatever it is. The month to month one. I think it's under $20 a month. I mean, when I was on my watch, I used to have it on my Apple Watch, my old Apple Watch, month to month.
I mean, like it depends on how much you're paying for it. Like I can see laptops and I can see like a Vision Pro for sure.
Vision Pro, yeah.
I mean, technically that should be something where you should only be using it indoors, but who knows?
Yeah. Go outside skateboarding like Casey Neistat did.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Oh my god.
But anyway, we have other topics to discuss.
Yeah. So okay, that's enough for the follow up on our buying decisions.
One other quick, not relevant topic is my continued journey to finishing this little mini game to learning Godot. Godot being a open source game engine that I'm trying. That can be similar to like Unity in terms of its cross-platform platform. What's the term? Just game development. Just think game development.
Game development.
Yeah, game development. So I'm using sample code right now just to get a sense of the to do an endless runner, climbing up, a tunnel basically. It's tough because I'm sharing the screen with Steve and Aaron here, but basically this is the game as is. Oops, I need to actually tap on it. And so I have my little asset of my character, pixel art asset of my astronaut going up the stairs. I don't know if the audio is coming in, but I do have background music playing.
Yeah.
And sound effects happening, and I'm just jumping up tiles. There's a score up there. I'm using Depart Mono, by the way, as the font, which is the free thing that John Gruber was talking about, the free font. Oh, go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, no, it's just going like 0.5 frames per second right now.
That's
Oh,
because
Sure.
Kotaro is on the worst Wi-Fi of the three of us, and nothing video related comes through when we record this. But it should look okay when I'm.
Yeah.
If we were doing video, it should look okay. It's local.
So
it's because your
let me
Wi-Fi sucks. I thought you were gonna fix that. Run a cable across your entire house to the router, whatever.
Be like Aaron.
I've done it. Look, man, I ran an Ethernet cable from a router through a building outside into a parking lot into an iPhone, just to get
The way I would have to do it is I would have to like run it up. You know how row homes are, so I have to like run it from the front up the stairs to the back, and then around my door, and then to the back of my desk, which is
you got to run, but yeah, you got to do something now. This is we can't even see your face. I can't.
Oh, really?
You're just
that
like
bad?
a bunch of pixels. Yeah,
Just drill a hole in the floor.
Oh,
yeah.
well,
It's your house, right?
Fair. So that's the progress at the moment. Don't.
But it's cool. I got to see it yesterday at Side Project Saturday a little bit, and it is cool, Aaron, in person. It's
So
just
the only thing you customized so far is like the audio and the character.
Yeah. So the next step is to replace all the platform assets, the background, with pixel art. So that's in progress as we speak, but I won't show that until they're done. So one of the things that I'm trying to debate on is like a lot of the assets are just straight assets. They're not particularly. So I might experiment with some tile mapping to just make sure that they're repeatable. Some of the things that Godot has built in is easy to do, like parallaxing and repeatable layers. So you don't have to do the whole trick of like when you're scrolling with your background, you have to like manually code the hot swapping of like, okay, this background is repeatable, so I need to like move make a copy of the panel and make sure that copy is like in the screen by the time you get to that section as you run towards the section of the game. And then to do parallax effects is actually pretty straightforward. So there's a lot of things that are like baked into Godot that I'm trying to like understand. Like sometimes I'm just thinking like the funny thing about Godot is like there are baked in functions that if you didn't know them, you would just be writing the code. It's kind of similar to like PHP in that sense of like if you feel like you're writing something that is like game specific mechanic and you feel like you're writing too much code, you probably are, and there's probably a function a baked in function that you haven't discovered yet, or a baked in feature, or even a baked in component or a node, a specialized node for the scenario that you're looking for. So that's sort of the discovery. It's kind of like a funny like treasure chest discovery of like, oh, this feature exists, I just didn't know about it kind of situation. So
how's their documentation? Do they have like some list of all the features
that
somewhere?
It's actually quite good. It's just a question of like me having to like spend the time to like sometimes I just want to like I view myself much more of a kinesthetic learner than necessarily like somebody that's like a book learner, if that makes any sense. Like if you,
it's a big word used there.
More like somebody that has to like it's just like it doesn't click in my brain unless I'm actually going through the process of learning it. And like going through the pain, I guess, of learning it.
Yep.
I remember when I was at UPenn, like I know like sometimes it's not good work-life balance, but I would spend weekends overnight in the office because we didn't have like laptops then.
Yeah.
We had to actually work on the machine. We're old. And it was nobody asked me to do it. Nobody, like, I just couldn't figure out JavaScript to save my butt, like this specific scenario JavaScript. And there was like we're talking, and we don't know how old it was. Like jQuery was the hot thing at the time,
dude. Yeah, I started learning JavaScript in the 90s, like the very early days when it first came out.
I mean, it was
rough.
it was a good process to go through, but it was like going through like a very vicious boot camp with no mentors, right? You were just like hitting them, doing whatever you could to like figure things out on your own, and thankfully, like it made for a robust form. Like a multi-check validation form that did all sorts of weird jujitsu under the hood, and there were no tests. So, I mean, even back then, tests weren't that much of a thing. So,
no,
in the JavaScript,
but you did it though, right?
Yeah.
So now you're like a JavaScript master.
No, that all got like deleted out my brain after I like moved on to mobile development. Like if you
So
had asked me
would
to look
I-
at like React Native code or React code, I should say, like I can generally grok it relatively well from a fundamental point of view. But if you would ask me like write it from like straight
Yeah.
vanilla, I'd be like, it'll take me a few
Well,
days.
Even straight vanilla JavaScript is kind of different nowadays. But when I was in a co-op at Drexel, I used to stay there. Like I used to work during the day, and then I would stay there like in the evening, and I'd be helping with tech support, like on front lines, like fixing people's network cards, Wi-Fi cards were new, and I'd be doing all that stuff. So I got such a hands-on education in tech support for computers and problems and stuff on multiple platforms, Windows and Mac. It's just like that helped me a lot for even to this day. I mean, it gave me some understanding of the kinds of problems people have and stuff, but also of just like the mental frame of the quote unquote typical user at the time of the people that I was helping. You get when you do tech support. I always think everybody should do some tech support in their life. I did some phone and I did in person, because you get exposed to stuff you never would have thought of. Like that, you just get exposed to mental models of how software works or how a computer works that is just completely alien to you. It's helpful to keep that in mind, that people don't think like we do as developers.
One of the things that I always find fascinating that doesn't tend to carry over from the game development world to the app world or even the web development world is that how little, like when we talk about getting like user feedback or getting like, in the app and web world, they pay so much money, so much stupid money for like focus research or user research. And it's like, $200, $100, you pay these people to come in and offer their feedback. And usually these people are used to it. So like they know how to play the game in terms of like what to expect and sort of the interaction. And so you don't get a true, honest, like genuine, like, oh, this is cool or this is not cool, right? Whereas in the game development world, you got to get that feedback constantly. You got to like build, make changes, like break stuff, rebuild it, sometimes even from scratch, and then just put it in front of people's face and just step back and be like, don't even give them instructions or give them the bare minimum required to start the game, right? But then just let them and just see them. And normally the funny thing about people is like they say stuff while they're playing the game. You don't have to like nudge them in one direction or another. You could just see them and like either their frustrations. I guess that's kind of like the funny thing about gamers in general is like they will very much express their displeasure or their confusion or their like joy, whatever emotions you want while they're playing the game. And you can kind of immediately get that like real time, okay, like we need to tweak that. Oh, they didn't see this item here, or they didn't understand how this weapon worked, like figure out like, and then be ready for the next time and just give it to as many people as possible just to get a sense of like, oh, okay, like next time I'll change this, or the next prototype I'll tweak that or refine this, and like really like push to like it's less about like, oh, we need to create these perfect refined UI that is like, no, we're just going to make a hot mess and then slowly refine it over time. But there's an understanding there that it's going to be a hot mess, and figuring out in the process is like, getting closer to the refined experience that you want to get. You want to get those reactions. It goes from like getting like unexpected reactions to like reactions like, oh yes, perfect, they got it, they knew it. Now we just like amp it up a little bit with a little bit of more juice. But I think like there's like long periods of like in between states of like, okay, we have a prototype, okay, in the app and in the web world, where it's just like just too much time is spent like going, building this thing and then finally getting that feedback in a controlled environment. It's like, no, man, put that in the wild and give it to your kids and see what they say, just let it fly a little bit. and you don't have to pay as much. Give them some candy.
Just give the children candy, Kotaro.
Yeah, go outside, go outdoors, and be like, hey, you want to try this thing? I don't know. There's NDA related stuff related to that. That's problematic, but
we should put that on a T-shirt. Yeah,
go to a cafeteria.
Outside, give the kids candy.
Go to the cafeteria. Go to the works cafeteria and have some people try it there. It's like you don't need people to pay for it.
Yeah,
you don't need to pay people to do it. But I don't know. That's a hot take.
Not for games
sure
anyway.
I'll get pushback.
You probably have to. You probably have to pay people to try out Jira updates.
Wow, just stab me in the heart. Just say Jira, and I'm just. Oh my god.
Well, let's not dwell on that then. Let's move on to the main topic.
And what is the main topic for today?
I think we're talking about indie vibes today because it feels like the tides may be shifting back towards an interest in all things indie development in the space. Maybe that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today, if that's really happening and what that might mean. And I don't know. There's a lot of things we have in our notes here we could be talking about. So Kotaro, why did this topic come on your radar recently?
I guess it's definitely more anecdotal than anything else. So take that as like
we're not going to do deep statistical research for this. podcast.
No, we're more ATP than ATP. I'll tell you that much.
That's true. That's actually true.
Anybody
notes we
knows,
wrote literally a minute before starting.
Exactly. No, barely any notes whatsoever. I think what's actually kind of funny is like we're actually better about it now than we used to be.
Yeah.
But I think it's just one of those like, I've certainly talked to quite a few people in the past couple months that are just, either they just finished working for a big corporation and they're taking a break, trying to figure out what they want to do next. So, they're working on some side projects. And I'm not talking like, oh, I'm just making this little doodad thing. Like this is like a series, like, oh, this could be a business type of thing, or they're prototyping a lot more with the intention of building something that will, that could be something that you would consider a business. Right. And so there is a fascination there in my mind of saying, oh, are we on a new renaissance? Certainly a lot of layoffs, being part of the reason, I'm sure. So people probably got their severance package and maybe like thinking, okay, well, while I have this time, aside from looking for a new job, maybe I can like re-explore new opportunities, right? Because the landscape has changed. Right. We're no longer in the app gold rush, right? Arguably,
we haven't been in that in like many
for a long time, right? Like the platform has matured. Any of the new platforms, if you were to talk about Vision OS, Watch OS particularly, Apple TV, like any of those ecosystems, I would debate as like very, very, very niche.
Yeah. Well, but that's, I think, good because niche is where you want to be if you're going to be indie, if you're going to try to make a product. And we're talking about indie, we're talking about an actual self-sustainable like business, right? So you're making a living off it. You want to get to the point you're making a living off it, not just a hobby hobby. So, you have the best chance, I think, if you go niche. Yeah.
I mean, we should recontextualize indie as because I think when people think of indie, they think of like, oh, I want to make my own indie game or indie app, right? Whereas I think if I'm trying to contextualize it, I think there are different types of indie opportunities, right? Whether it be you are in the content business where you're like Azam Sharp, not school, where you would, I snuck that in there.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor. But he goes about it in terms of teaching people how to build apps, in a variety of different ways, right? Whether it be video tutorials, courses, live courses, articles, etc.
Yeah. So he's a content. He creates a lot of programmer developer content focused mostly on the type of people that might be wanting to go indie in our world.
Yes.
Of
So-
actually
so it's building.
Apple platform developers,
Sure.
especially iOS developers. But because he talks about things, and we're just using him as a great example. But there's multiple people that I've seen kind of pop up last couple years doing this kind of content where it's really focused towards developers. And if you want to learn how to build your backend for your app and how to use the latest SwiftUI stuff, like you can go to Ozum or one of these other people and you can find those courses. And when we're talking about going indie now, I think you're right that originally in this community, it was about building this, an app, like our friend Curtis and Slopes. He went indie with his app. But now it's like, I think a little bit more broad. It's like, I want a self-sustainable business, and it probably has something to do with my like app development or something, or programming. But it doesn't necessarily have to be just an app. Like, people are podcasting, they're building apps, they're doing educational content. There's a variety of approaches now, I think.
I mean, I think in the case of Curtis, like, he had built it, it was a lot of it was like, he was very good about understanding where the trends were and sort of pivoting on those trends, and particularly sort of aligning his features with Apple features so that he ensured that his stuff would get featured. Like, just looking at the App Store now, you're like, must have WatchOS apps. He's in like the top of the list. So
he wrote, I think the blog's still up there somewhere. He wrote this, like, for a long time, wrote this blog updating about all kinds of stuff related to these topics, and definitely worth checking out. He's really good at the traditional approach.
Yeah.
Like, he has an app, he has a company, he has good techniques he uses to get featured and to keep up with the trends, and he knows his market. Most of all, he has a niche market, and he focuses on it relentlessly, and he adds value. He has like competitive advantage against his competitors because of strategic investments he's made over time, and in features and in like we talked about this before, like data acquisition and stuff. Like, he's a very good example of a hardworking indie developer in traditional sense, and that is a path that is still, I think, open to people, and I think it's in some ways maybe more open than ever before because the platforms have expanded, and it's just that you're not going to be able to, I think, very easily get an app that everybody will download. Like, it'd be a top 10 app on the App Store, top 50 app on the App Store. But that's not what you should be targeting anyway. You need to get software for like an indie, I think especially, needs to be really targeted towards a market, solving a real problem. And I just think that, like, if you can identify a market opportunity, the capabilities of the platforms and the ease of which you can build these products now, it's gotten better over the years with the latest version of SwiftUI for UI development, with all the features that are built into iPhones now, and how good the cameras are, how good the microphones are. Like, there's just opportunities now in a variety of, I think, markets that maybe weren't there in the past.
I look at Procreate as a really good example of what you mentioned and how it started. I think it was just two developers, but like basically they had built they took advantage of the iPad and and Pencil particularly to build an app that was targeted towards people who did a lot of concept art, a lot of creative, basically took all the Photoshop refugees, or I think at the time Photoshop didn't really have much of a full featured app that targeted people that would like to just draw, fundamentally speaking.
Yeah.
So it was a very niche market, but it was a very big market. Also, the fascinating thing about that is it's a very opinionated app. So it's like, yeah, we have one for iPhone, but it has its own, bespoke sort of interactions and the expectations, versus in the iPad version, like, that is meant for you to be like your Wacom replacement or your mobile Wacom tablet.
Wacom.
Wacom. So like, it will only be.
I don't know if that's how you're supposed to say it or not, but that's how I like to say it.
You could say it the American way, which is Wacom.
No, I like Wacom.
Wacom. So the challenge is, so the interesting thing about it is, like, it's up, even till now, it's still been a relatively affordable, paid upfront app, which is surprising considering, like, pretty much all the other apps.
Still paid upfront?
Still paid upfront.
I haven't used it in a while. I didn't realize. Wow.
So with all
that's
the
incredible.
updates,
I'm
with
sorry,
all the
that's like-
updates, that's unheard of, right?
I
But
don't
it's
know
still,
how. Yeah, with
it's
everybody
still
going
top.
subscriptions.
It's still top 10. I don't think they have more than maybe like 40 to 50 people that they actively employ. So they keep their team relatively tight. And it kind of reminds me of similar to like indie game studios. I don't know if you would really call them indie, but like smaller game studios, like say Supergiant, which is the maker of Hades, which keeps their team relatively light, maybe like no more than 40 people tops.
Yeah.
For the entire team. So that's one thing that I think is kind of a, go ahead.
I was gonna say, speaking of the being a paid upfront app, I wonder if there is opportunity there, because like I was just looking at, I'm gonna share the screen here. I was looking at, I saw this report. This is the example I found online, but it seems that there was some reporting about SaaS, the SaaS applications that companies are using declining for the first time in a decade, and there is that what's that once product that 37 Signals is doing, where it's like you buy the product for a flat rate fee, you run it yourself on your own servers. Like they have products they're doing on the
Basecamp,
I think
or
it's
once. Oh, okay.
Well, 37 Signals, the company.
Is it Hey or Basecamp? Oh, you're talking about the product
No. I mean, they have it's kind of hard to explain. They have products. Yeah, they have products under the once.com. They have Campfire right now and Writebook, and I think Campfire you buy and Writebook might actually be free. But they have Campfire was the first one they released under this concept of once, where you just pay for it up front, you install it and run it. You pay it once, you install it, you run it. It's not a SaaS product. It's something you buy and use. And so that's been out there for several months or a little while now. And then the fact that maybe SaaS purchases are going down a bit right now. I wonder if there, and I know you hear all the time anecdotally about subscription fatigue. I know I see that in comment sections all over the place. People saying I hate subscriptions for my apps. And it's like, and even me in my own use, I bought, I think Halide had like a buy once kind of option, and I just did it. I've done that for a few apps where I'm just like, if you get a high price, just buy once and don't bother me for a long time about buying again. I'll do that. And I wonder if that's actually it's not the same thing as a market niche, but it's like I don't know what you call it, a monetization niche. It's a monetization.
It's a monetization strategy.
Strategy. So
that some companies will take, not Adobe.
But I'm saying as an indie, we're keeping it on
keeping it indie.
Indie, I think it might actually. I wonder though. I wonder if that is a potential avenue to help, because if all the big competitors are doing subscription stuff like Adobe, and you have a product that it's not direct competitor to all of Adobe's products, but like Procreate, I don't know if you'd even call it a competitor to any Adobe products, but it has like some features that overlap.
I think that the challenge with if there is I think Procreate, for the most part, as an app, you can be offline and it will still work fine. Like majority of the features doesn't require you to be online to use Procreate. Whereas like maybe Figma, you need to be online, right? So I think like a software as service thing is, there's a dependency there, right? Of like, oh, I need to be online to utilize this service. So any of the apps that have that are meant to be utilized offline strikes me as like a good, reasonable product to be like paid upfront, and you can just charge what you think is reasonable, that's sustainable for like that. Okay, if I charge this much and I get this many people, we can sustain this business for X amount of years. I mean, you have to do the math on that, but so not to make sure that you charge reasonably, especially for pro apps.
I just wonder. I wonder if we're about to see maybe more buy up front, or maybe I think probably the more likely way you implement this is the way I've seen it, where you have subscriptions, but then you have like one subscription, which is like a multiple of times of a yearly subscription. You just buy it once for maybe for the length of that version or even quote unquote lifetime, whatever. Like those quote unquote lifetime purchases, I see them more often now in indie apps.
I mean, I'm semi surprised it's not a thing for like the Call of Duties, your EA Sports games, where most of the engine itself doesn't. Well, I know they make so much money, but it doesn't. It strikes me as a little bizarre that they just don't move to a subscription model because the engine itself doesn't change that dramatically. So it just you're just changing rosters.
Aren't you buying like stuff in the games?
You are. That's the thing, right? So not only do they charge you $60 up front to buy the game annually, they also charge you they aggressively charge you aggressively put up barriers of like, oh, if I want to have like this upgrade or this aesthetic change or this new character, or if I want to have legendary characters, I can't like outright like have them or earn them. You have to buy them. So it's a lot of.
So if you're
okay.
So if you're like an indie game, you want to do an indie game, like you're saying that you could contrast yourself to the big. I mean, you're not really competing with Call of Duty if you're indie.
No. But I am fascinated by an idea that I don't really think many people really put too much effort on, is around this idea of like, here's a game. In the beginning, it's like an MVP, right? So you're saying, I'm just going to charge this much money. But over time, as the features and the characters that I add and all that stuff improve, you can advertise. It's almost like a promotional thing. So you advertise this raises up $1 after, September 1st or whatever, and say, so buy it now to lock it in, and it will lock in forever at the price that you pay it once, you pay up front, and you own it forever. But like each new person that buys it, right, they have to pay a little bit extra because now they're getting in at you got in on the ground floor, but then you just sort of raised the floor.
So I mean, having a discount for the initial like pre-sale, that's pretty common. I think I've seen what you're talking about. I think Pinboard service did that or does that, where it was like the price would go up over time as number of users were added. So if you bought it earlier, you'd get like I think it was Pinboard, one of these services. But I'm
certainly okay with the idea. Like at some point, this gets capped at a certain level. Like I would never do anything unreasonable, like over $50-$60 kind of thing, right? It's just like this has. I'm sort of upfront admitting that this is not a full feature game, right? But it's full feature enough for release, and that you get more benefits.
Well, isn't
if you get in early?
Yeah. I'm not a Steam guy, but isn't there like a early release Steam thing that's similar to this?
Yeah. I just don't think that they do anything. I don't know if there's anything like it where you are constantly promoting the idea of getting in early. So like every upgrade, you're like pushing for like, this is this new character, in whatever features and all that stuff. And it's like with that, if you get in early, you get this character for free or whatever. It comes along for the ride.
I wonder how hard is that? I don't know how hard is that to implement on iOS with the in-app.
You just raise the price.
Just raise the price.
Just raise the price.
Can you? Is that violate any kind of like Apple rule? Can you just be like, this is the price for now, and then we're gonna raise it after this date, and just say it in your screenshots and your description?
You don't have to say it. You can say it in your description. I don't think you can do it in the. And you can even advertise it in a game. I would probably be more likely to advertise it in social media.
So basically off the App Store. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I would be more inclined to be like, it would be a silent update in the sense of like, as when the time comes, when I get a new release, so that also increases the price.
So have you been feeling like there's more indie interest in game development? Because I mean, I feel like there's a ton of indie games out there anymore, and they're everywhere. But then on the other hand, there's more consoles than ever. The Switch 2 is rumored to be coming out like next year. You have Apple Arcade, which is a dumpster fire most of the time, right? But it still exists. And
they just recently
came out. I've never used it. I don't use it.
They just recently came out with a really nice game called Balatro. which is like a card-based game, but there's like you have jokers that give you power-ups. That's actually a really good game, and that was a really big indie darling. Usually it's like $10 on the app store, but if you go Apple Arcade, you get it for free. And then there's Slay the Spire. I didn't know that was an Apple Arcade game. They don't promote that very well, which is sad because I heard that's a really good game as well.
I know. I thought that the whole Apple Arcade thing was like not working right. You're telling me it's fine. I don't know. I had the idea that it didn't work right. Like
they have like interesting games. One of the things I'm fascinated about the strategy, like I agree with you in the sense like it's a dumpster fire in terms of like sometimes you get a lot of shovelware. So like some games will just take out their in-app purchases. I'm looking at you, Castlevania. Yeah. And it's like, oh, this was originally some kind of really bad mobile game that they just basically repurposed, and mechanics are so, but that it was designed, which ones were designed for like microtransactions basically. One of the fascinating things that at least I can tell from the mobile indie space, aside from like I do sense like there are a lot of local game development meetup, not a lot, but like there's a activity in the local game development meetup where people are beginning to like produce, prototypes and show off the games that they're working on. So I think that there's energy there. The other thing that I think is interesting is the marketplace itself has changed in terms of how indies kind of work the market. So I think this has been something that's been suggested for a while. So I think it's just sort of the strategy is kind of begin to become more commonplace, where you might start off in Steam or you might start off in the App Store or whatever. But the goal is to like use that time, like early access or whatever, to like build up your game and your community, so to speak, in one platform, with the intention of like you just fine tuning it so that at some point you can move it to the next one. So like you're slowly hopping, you're using that as a time to like hop from one to another. Like you're building, you're leveling up, so to speak, but you're also like stretching out the time frames of when you move from one platform to another. So maybe something that starts on iOS might take about 3 to 6 months before they move to Android, when they have enough development time and to clean up their code, to get things working properly and to make sure that it works fine on Android. And then they go, okay, put it on PC, put it on the Mac App Store. Like they just take advantage of all the all the distribution.
Yeah, but they time it.
They tier.
It's like it sounds like it's like similar to the traditional movie model where you start in a theater and then you move to second run theater or something, and then you would move to like video, and then you move to like HBO, and then like eventually a year and a half later wherever you get onto cable, something like that. And you just lower the price at each tier. Essentially, the price kind of goes down, and you're paying in your time to wait to see the product or to get the product.
Exactly.
Exactly. That makes a lot of sense, and that also kind of leads me into maybe the final little bit about this that we had in our notes was the platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Like what platform? Because I feel like specifically like Apple and Android, that comes up a lot. There's been some recent stuff. I don't know if you guys have paying attention to this. I saw this article. It was in our Slack, and this reminded me of, we got an email like this at work. It wasn't as this bad, at least not yet. But we got an email that was like, you have to do something with your account and DUNS and things like that. And the article in question is, I think I can actually put this on the show notes. Our Android app is frozen in Carbonite by, what is this, by IA.net? Like, don't they make the
Writer app?
The Writer app, yeah. So they document this whole, like, I'm not going to go into too details, but this like nightmare of bureaucracy and back and forth. I don't know all the details or how common this is, but they had a lot of problems. Basically, Google Play asking them to do various things in order for them to be able to use, I guess, Google Drive is, I guess, the gist of this one. But whatever it is, they ended up basically just stopping development on their Android app for now, it looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's just because it's not worth it. It's got me thinking, like, of the platforms, if you're going indie, this is check in on what the current state of the platforms are for indie development. I still think, in my view, that Apple's platforms are, at least if you're doing like mobile space, by far the better platform to start on and focus on. Mm-hmm. You can, of course, do like the multi-platform approach like Flutter or something, but unless you were, I think, coming from that background, like you are really good in React Native or Flutter already, then I feel like that's not necessarily going to help you much to try to do a cross-platform thing from day one versus just like getting really good at iOS. I feel like the indie stuff that I'm even aware of, they're all like iOS, either primarily or like exclusively, or they started there and that's where most of their success is. I just, unless you guys know, I'm not in Android space too much, so I just don't know of a lot of indie apps. It just seems like the Google Play world is just worse than the problems we have on the Apple side. We have problems on this side, but I just feel like every time I look over the fence at the Google Play side, I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to go over there.
There are problems there. Like people talk about, like, you think you got it bad. Just try like Nintendo Switch or PlayStation. Try
grass always greener thing.
Grass is always greener. Like those are the worst, right? Like the there's no documentation a lot of times for like what type of screenshots we need, or stuff like that. Like it's very obtuse and very like, if you think you're bad, try our space. So
yeah, but I mean, what would you recommend if you're going indie? If you're doing
since this is an Apple development podcast.
Well, yeah, I mean, like we would always recommend Apple. Obviously, that's our
Sure.
bias, that's our understanding. But like, has your advice or your thoughts about when or if to go to Android or another platform changed? I think obviously it's different between applications and games, so you can kind of split your answer that way.
Yeah, I guess. Well, like, how much control do you have of the Chrome of your app, right? And then, or you need, I should say, and how much of that in terms of like your branding and your content. So basically, if you are a web first product, right? Like if your thing has to have access to has to have internet connection, then it makes sense. As much as I hate to admit it, but it makes sense that you might try to start with Flutter and or React or whatever other cross-platform of choice would be.
For what type of product are you thinking of? An app?
For like a minimum viable product, like a multi-platform product that you have to have on Mac, web.
Right. Like if you had like a SaaS product,
your
main
particularly
SaaS
product,
and you want to have a mobile application companion app for it. That could actually be a really good deal, because that makes sense then.
I would argue if you have the resources, would it really kill you to have a native team on both sides that understand the nuances of each platform?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like this is where the challenge of like saying like respect the platform. I don't think like there's a lot of hubris in that sort of conversation. And again, now if we're talking about indie, sometimes you just have to get something out because like you have you're working with VC money, or you need to get something that you need to demonstrate to get VC money.
Well,
right?
working with VC money doesn't strike me as indie anymore. That seems like
startup
world, which I distinguish as different than what we're talking about.
Okay, that's fair.
I distinguish that not as indie as I think it's more like, in my mind, that's startup world. Like indie is like one or two people building something, and startup is like getting VC money. Indie is bootstrapped. That's how I distinguish it anyway.
Okay, we'll go with that context. If that's the case, then I don't know. I think that.
Well, just to keep things focused, but VC it changes the whole thing. Like if someone's investing money, it changes everything. Your whole strategy.
Yeah. So I guess if that's the case, it's whatever platform you're comfortable with, right? And then if you need to have access to the internet, right? Let's say you're like some cataloging app of some kind, and the base core requires that you have like a SaaS service in the back end, then I think then it stands to reason to like consider a cross-platform and platform.
Aaron, do you have any thoughts on if you want to go indie, like your platform choices and types of software you'd be choosing?
Yeah, I agree with like stick with the platform you're comfortable with.
I think.
Yeah, if you're not going to be hiring people anytime soon, then you should be. Yeah. Or if there's something new that you want to learn, so it really all depends on your goal of how soon are you trying to make a profit.
Of course, yeah. If I was, that's true. But if my goal was I want to make my living on this. Yeah, if I want to make my living on this, it's not just a hobby app. It's something I want to turn into like a real product. I feel like that's the if you already know something really well, like you already know React well, then maybe you should just go with React Native. You can get something quicker to market, unless you need to use specific technologies. But I still feel like if your product is focused on mobile, then Apple's platforms are probably the better bet. As a single person or two people making something, the process of developing with the native tools, I feel like is pretty good, and you can go very far with it, and your investment in the platform is probably not going to be wasted anytime soon. Android, I mean, I struggle with why anyone indie would focus on Android, unless you've already have a really successful product, because it just seems like a money pit. But I don't know. I don't do it much on there. It just seems like nobody wants to buy anything on that platform. Like even worse than on Apple. And then you see these articles like this bureaucratic back and forth with Google and Play Store. And I don't know. I've just never had good vibes about the Google Play experience.
I think
so. I don't know if I would go there unless I really felt it was profitable. Or I was just a hardcore. If I was an Android guy, maybe I would, just because if I was already there.
If the goal was to
make money. I want to make money.
Yeah, spread the engagements, or if you're an ad-based service, or
ad-based service
revenue.
Is a good one, yeah.
Like if your revenue comes dramatically from ads, it does make sense in my mind to say, okay, we need to target, that market share. It doesn't have to be the best experience, because apparently, like, Android users are used to like bad iOS.
They
ports.
are used to bad iOS ports. Yeah,
which I'm sorry, I feel bad for it. I hate that, but
it is a shame, because the Android experience has gotten so much better over the years, and yet because of the market dynamic, this is what I mean. I feel like it's still clearly the case that you still have a close to 0% shot of making it big on any platform. But it's like slightly higher on Apple.
One thing that I did find interesting is like when the conversation does come up around on like blogs or Reddit forums about like if I pick between one, the conversation is never around, do I pick native or Flutter or React Native? It's more like, do I pick Flutter or React Native or Kotlin multi-platform, right? And then
really?
those are the holy wars that they care about, right? And I think that's the fascinating like discussion of especially on the Android side, it's I feel like that's a coming issue, because Flutter in and of itself, it's its own rendering engine, it's its own bespoke thing. In terms of like, it's like from a very basic generic example, it's basically a game engine. It's very opinionated. It has to be, right? It tries to mimic iOS and Android, but you can mix between the two. Like I can have material design, warpy, bubbly stuff happening on iOS, and mixed it in with like more static kind of transitions that the iOS users are used to, and it gets really funky, really bad, really quickly. So
I feel like, there's so many things you have to think about, but I think you're right. That primarily, if you know some system, like you're already good at Apple development or Android development, you just go with that first.
Go with that first.
When I'm looking at things like if I'm thinking of an application, like I want this application to last, I expect this to be around for years and years, and maybe continue to evolve it. I would very carefully think about whether I want to tie myself to something like Flutter, as you said, because it's like this completely separate platform. Isn't Google heavily involved in it? And so
that's the thing. It's like having two.
Google, trust.
It's like having two sibling childs. It's like, who do you love more? It's a
well, who are they going to drop?
Scenario.
I mean, but isn't it technically a Google product? Like, can they kill it and can put it into the graveyard?
Listen, Google is not known. Google is not known for doing. Google is known for supporting their products.
Google supports their stuff forever,
long in the future.
Time. Yeah. They never,
long time. They never. They never like on prematurely sunlight stuff.
Well, I'll just say, like on the Apple platform, Apple will push the platform forward very aggressively. Like they'll update their own apps, they'll add new features and stuff that you can't get in the old version of iOS, but code that you wrote like 10 years ago or more, it's still works. Objective-C code I wrote many years ago still works without change all these years later. And it's like, I feel like it's a very mature platform now, and it's very, I feel more secure about if I'm going to build something, I'm going to have this technical debt for a long time, that at least I know I can evolve it on this platform without it all breaking at once. But I don't know what's going to happen if I was doing some third-party software on top of the native platform. I just think the native approach is, if you're an indie and you got to put all your energy somewhere, I feel like a lot of the time, most of the time, maybe if it's like a regular application, not a game, that maybe going native makes the most sense. Like, just use the platform-specific tooling and stuff and build your app that way. But again, there's so many factors involved. You can't really be blanket about it.
Yeah, I would look at it in the sense of, like, if you are building a modern, like, you want to look for a problem that isn't being serviced very well. And then the other thing is, like, if you don't like this idea of subscription or something like that, maybe consider pro, and like the iPad, I feel like is like untapped potential, but it has people who really utilize that product.
iPad.
The
iPad, man.
And so if you can build a pro app or something that pro users can use, they will pay you money.
Oh yeah. Every musician, I think I see the gig. This is just a simple example. Gigging musicians either use an iPhone or an iPad for their music all the time now. I've seen lots of like DJs. I think will use that stuff. They use Macs too, but you can do some cool stuff with iPads as part of a DJ hookup setup, podcasting, video. Running a venue with the sound system, like all controls on the iPad are things. Sure. You're doing hardware. Do hardware, indie hardware startup. There you need some fancy money.
That's.
But
so there's space there because it's people have sort of like poo-pooed it for so long. Like there's opportunities there. There's opportunities for like the Mac App Store. It's kind of, you can say, oh, it's a desert, but yes, great. There's a high profile space you can like take advantage of.
I think that's the thing. There's no one right way to go indie, but I do feel like the energy is shifting towards that again. People have the feeling that the market for jobs is not great, and I think that's a big part of it. You start thinking, where else can I get money? Where else can I get revenue? And also, like as you said, if you're in between jobs and you're financially stable for a while, it's like, what am I going to do with my time? And I still think it's true today as it was yesterday, that if you're a developer, you have more opportunities than most anyone else on earth to develop a side business that could turn into your primary business if you want to. There's just so many avenues to go about it.
You have the power.
And we didn't even talk about the quote unquote AI of it all either. How many apps are doing that? That's another day because we're out of time now. But But I feel like final words here. I think there is an indie vibe wave coming. I think it's growing. I think we're seeing it anecdotally with people we're talking to and in and around the Philly Coca community. I'm seeing it on blogs. I'm seeing it on social media. A little, I'm seeing a lot more excitement about building stuff out there on your own as like small 1 or 2 person kind of projects. And I myself, just talking about iOS, I use a lot of indie apps myself. We're gonna mention a couple of them at the end here, and so I think there is a vibe shift. What do you guys think? Final words.
You go first, Aaron.
I don't know. I definitely need to get back to it myself, but how about you guys?
Well, working on it. I mean, you know what I'm working on, so but yeah, I feel optimistic in that sense.
Yeah. I am working on things. I guess I mentioned before, I'm reevaluating my life this quarter, so probably not gonna. I gave up thinking I was gonna get anything out before the new year because everything, my whole life has kind of like gotten thrown into a period of change and adjustment. So I'm trying to figure things out, and I'm going through that process, and it's been good so far. I'm thinking, and we could talk about this another day, but I actually have been going through a process of trying to evaluate it. And one of the things that I'm thinking of is just that, like, I want to go indie. I would love to and there's a lot of things I have to consider for that. And I'm trying to figure out a plan that allows me to make incremental progress on that. So that's gonna be a talk for another day. I think we have to wrap up, don't we?
Yes, we do. So let me go look for my outro. That's all we have for today. You can learn more about Philly Cocoa at phillycocoa.org. There you'll find links to our Slack group, meetup schedule, and contact info. If you're feeling generous, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever your podcast platform of choice is, and share us with all your developer friends. And one more thing, I'm going to ask each of you to promote one indie app that you like to promote. So I'll start with you, Steve, and then we go down, or something that you use. How's that?
Oh man, does it have to be one of the ones in the shoutouts links here? Or
it can be, or it can be, it could be something else. It's up to you.
I don't know. I'm gonna use. Okay, I'm gonna do Happy Scale then. I use Happy Scale every day. I've recorded my weight pretty consistently for years. I can see the trends up and down, and I'm currently on a downward trend. I really appreciate. I appreciate this app. It's a good app. It's helping me stay on my weight loss journey, and helping me stay there. And I like it a lot. And it's a indie app. It's one single person shop, isn't it? If you
need to stall for time, Aaron, I can.
No. Who wrote Happy Scale? Who's the
I did.
Names for people always forget?
Oh,
you wrote Happy
Russell.
Scale? No.
Oh no, no, I didn't write it. No, Russ.
Developer Russ from Philly Cocoa.
Russ from Philly Cocoa.
Trying to steal his thunder. What are you doing here? No, Russ. So as far as I know, it's just him. He doesn't really advertise himself on his website. So, but anyway, it's happyscale.com. If you want a weight loss tracking app, it's really cool. We have some cool algorithms in there to help smooth the trend lines around, because your weight can shift around a lot. So if you're someone like me, it takes your weight every day. A lot of regular, like if you just do a naive plot, it's like very spiky. And it's not, but he has a couple of algorithms he has implemented, so you can track your stats and see if you're really making progress. And I like it. It has like milestones. I use all the stuff in there. It's great, and a really good dark mode, including a dark mode icon now for the latest iOS. Mm-hmm. So what's another one? We got Happy Scale.
Do you need me to stall?
Is Aaron thinking?
I don't. Go ahead.
All right. I was going to do Slopes, which I do still recommend. GetSlopes.com.
I'll put it in the notes.
It's a skiing app, a skiing tracking app.
We just don't ski.
We just don't ski, so I can't really promote it in a sense like, oh yeah, I know exactly what's going on. But they always say it's a very, very polished app, and I highly recommend it for any of my skiing friends. But while we're stalling, one thing that I've been messing around with is an app called Pixin, which has a iPad and Mac version. Where you can make pixel art. That is a really good pixel making application that is also synced with your iCloud. That and PicSquare, those are the two that are like really good. PicSquare because it's iPhone and iPad, but not Mac. So I'm like, if I'm on the road, I can make pixel art with that one. But then when I'm home, I might use Pixin. But those are two really good apps. I'll put them in the show notes. But that's it for me. Yeah.
Does Aaron use any indie apps?
Apparently, I just don't use that many apps.
So it's funny you say that, because Kotaro saw my iPhone screen yesterday. He was like, "How many apps do you have installed?" I have gazillions of apps installed. I'm like the outlier on the other side here.
But
oh my god.
But those are the indie apps that
I'll add another one. I'll add another one in Aaron's steed here. Food Noms. I'm pretty sure that's an indie app. I think I mentioned it before. Let me see. Food Noms. I don't know. It feels like an indie app. I don't think it's a big company. I think it's been featured in a lot of stuff though. It's. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's an indie app. I use it all the time. It's like you can never tell. These websites don't tell you, like they'll tell you.
Oh man,
it's not like
This
So,
podcast is burning faster than OpenAI is burning through their money.
No. It's a food tracker. Oh, see, I think it's just one guy. Honestly,
Okay.
yeah, Ryan Ashcraft, designer and developer. So that's why I think it's an indie. So I've been using it for a while. It's a nutrition tracking app. It is really excellent, and we mentioned it before on this podcast. I highly recommend it. I've gone through lots of these types of food and nutrition tracking apps, and this is the one that I've been able to stick with the longest, and doesn't have like annoying. Like some of the ones from the bigger companies, it kind of got annoying with their, I guess, upselling and their like subscriptions, and they're putting stuff on their servers and things. And this is just very straightforward. It works on iPad as well, and iPhone, and I don't know if it works on the other platforms, but it works on all the platforms I have, which is those two. I use it every day, and I like the little AI feature. See, the one quote unquote AI feature I actually use regularly is where I'll put in something I'm eating, and I'm like, I have no idea how much this is. Give me a guesstimate, and a little AI thing will give me a guesstimate of calories and nutrition breakdown. I'm like, good enough, and I put it in my log and move on with my day. So I mean, because otherwise I'd be fiddling around trying to like figure it out.
Sure.
Like I don't care. I just need a rough
Google searching. Yeah.
Yeah, so it saves me that feature alone makes it worth it for me, and it saves me a lot of time when I have some especially if you go out like eating at a restaurant or something and you can't find exactly the thing in the log, and it's like, what is it? So anyway, that's what so we have Happy Scale, Slopes, Pixin. What's the other one? The other P one?
Pick Square, but it's like
Pick Square.
Pix
and
without the S.
Oh my God, you're gonna have to write that one in the log.
Yeah, I'll write it in the notes.
And Food Noms, and so that's five indie apps.
Yep,
that you should check out.
Well, you should check out. Till next time. Good luck on your own developer journey. We will cheer for you always. I don't know how that's going to feel in my pants.